Good morning and welcome. Can I call the chaplain for a moment of reflection? And if you could all sit.
This is an opportunity for us to reflect on our common purpose as we come together this morning, and an invitation to join in prayer for those who would like to do so. We give thanks for the opportunity to meet together and in this place for these new buildings that serve the vet school and the university so well, and for the beautiful hills in which they sit and which bring inspiration and respite. We give thanks for the scholarship conducted here and across the university, and for its power to address many of the growing needs around the world. We ask this morning for an understanding of the part we play, and for diligence, cheerfulness, good courage and a quiet mind as we undertake our responsibilities to serve and further the university's good works. Amen.
And if I can move to item 1 on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of the 9th of February, which, for those of you who have a billet, which is within edit, that's pages 37 to 38. Are we happy to approve the minutes? Thank you. Are there any matters arising from that meeting? No? In which case, can I invite the convener to present the report of the Business Committee?
Rector, University Secretary, Professor Argyle and members of General Council. First of all, welcome to those members of the General Council who have travelled to Edinburgh as part of this alumnus weekend. We're delighted to welcome you here and see you at this half-yearly meeting. I'm pleased now to present the report of the Business Committee for the past 6 months since our last meeting in February. Your Secretary, Mike Mitchell, on my right, has completed agreed guidelines for consultation between the University and the General Council, and these have now been approved by court and are available on the General Council website. We said farewell to Kim Waldron, previous University Secretary, at our half-yearly meeting in February, and we had a reception for her in March. We were delighted to subsequently welcome Sarah Smith, here on 3 along on my right, as the new University Secretary, and look forward to working closely with her and her team, as we always have done. Your Business Committee benefits from a regular update from the Director of Communications, Marketing and External Affairs, Dr. Ian Conn. And many members subscribe to the daily news feed that his team provide about the university, and I would encourage you to get access to that, which you can through the website. The range and a number of newsworthy events and the research that comes out of this university are staggering and give you a terrific insight into the daily life of this institution. Gordon Cairns and your Constitutional Committee have been producing new information for those wishing to stand for election to the Business Committee or as a General Council Assessor, and they have refreshed the information available for those who are elected so that we hope their induction is improved. This makes the commitment expected clear and the way in which we operate to support your university. They have considered further whether our election procedures for a future Chancellor should be updated, and I can report that no changes are proposed. Your Business Committee had already introduced new procedures for publicising the election, and other ideas have been discussed and so far rejected. Bruce Ritson and your Academic Standing Committee are inquiring into the new student support for both home and international students. The university is investing heavily in single point of access services and a universal personal tutor scheme, and we want to ensure that these are having their intended benefits. The students have reported to us that they can see changes, but they worry still that they are consulted with very frequently, but perhaps not always heard. We hope that these efforts will be successful, and we will continue to monitor that on behalf of the General Council. Kirsty McGregor and your Finance and Services Standing Committee have reviewed the excellent financial year past as described in the annual report for 2011-12, which is available on the website of the university, with the Director of Finance, Phil McNall. It was very good to see the emphasis on the university being less dependent on government teaching grants and seeking as broad an income base as possible, and on the importance of generating a surplus, because that will in future be the major resource for investment. Neil Hind and the Public Affairs Standing Committee are working on a major upgrade of the General Council website. Development and Alumni is a key partner in this and their related work. The new Director of Development and Alumni, Kirsty MacDonald, whom I hope many of you met yesterday evening at the reception in the Playfair Library, was welcomed to your Business Committee in January and gave us an excellent introduction to her new strategies for alumni engagement. Your committee is supporting one of these, which is the weekend we are presently engaged in, and I hope all of you enjoy the weekend events. Your committee has responded also to the publication by the Scottish Government of a new post-16 education bill. In our submission, we emphasised the importance, we emphasised our objections to the potential removal of the General Council from the governance of the university, and to sweeping powers to direct an institution and its curricula proposed in Section 2 of the bill. The evidence given to the Education Committee of the Parliament and the subsequent parliamentary debate has resulted in the expectation that the bill will look different when it comes back to the Parliament at the next stage. We will continue to examine this closely until any new bill becomes law. Meantime, we are supporting the new draft Scottish Code of Higher Education Governance that has been prepared by the Chairs of Court. And again, in our response to that, we have emphasised the role of the General Council, the election of the independent assessors to the court that you undertake, and supported the idea of elected staff and student members of courts. This is the last half-yearly meeting for a number of retiring committee members: Jane Kyle, Ruthven Campbell, Ian Sutherland, Neil Hind, and Shields Henderson. I thank them all for their contribution, and I'm very appreciative of the time committee members give freely when they take on this commitment. I would like to mention a couple in particular. Ian Sutherland was convener of the Academic Standing Committee from 2009 to 12 and has been a member of the Business Committee since 2001. Neil Hind has been convener of the Public Affairs Standing Committee since 2010, served as vice convener of the Business Committee 2004 to 8, and served a total of 11 years in total as a member of the committee. Between them, these two men have given over 23 years to service of the committee. I would like also to mention in public and to thank our retiring General Council Assessor, Mrs. Margaret Tate. Margaret has given an outstanding contribution to the General Council and the University for an astonishing 27 years. Margaret was elected to the Business Committee in 1986. She served on the Appeals Committee till 1990. She was convener of Public Affairs from 1990 to 92. She was vice convener from 92 to 96. She was convener of the committee from 96 to 2000, and at that time she was elected to the University Court, where she served from 2001 until this year, 2013. Margaret has given freely of her time, and of course of her opinions, to us all. She has championed the causes of the disadvantaged, as she has seen them at different times during that period, and she has always held the torch aloft for students in particular. We all in this university community have much to thank her for and wish her well in her post-Edinburgh University life. We hope sincerely that her husband Haldane will continue to keep up as he always has done. So I would like you to join me in a round of applause for our retiring committee and General Council Assessor members. Rector, that concludes the report of the Business Committee.
Thank you, Convener. Are there any comments or questions on the report from the Business Committee? speak now? No. Okay, in which case I propose to move to agenda items 4 and 5, which I'm going to take together, which relate to the dates of the next General Council meetings and the notification of forthcoming elections. I'll pass you over to the Secretary.
Thank you. I have to say that slightly unusually, I'm not just standing up and announcing a set of dates. I actually have to ask for your approval. The next meeting is currently scheduled for the 8th of February, which is the conventional date. However, the Business Committee has agreed to move this meeting to 1 week later, to Saturday the 15th of February with your assent. The trouble is that on the 8th of February there's a small competing event called the Calcutta Cup at Murrayfield. And so if this council would assent to that, we will move it for this year 2014 to the third Saturday actually of February. Can I have your assent? Thank you. Then I will announce that the meeting is on Saturday the 15th. As the meeting is now on Saturday the 15th, the date for motions to be received in the General Council office for any motions you wish to submit for this meeting is the 27th of November in this year, 2013. Now, the following General Council meeting will be held in Montreal in June 2014, and once again the date is subject to uncertainty. This time we're in competition with the Formula One Grand Prix. And it's not that we're worried about our audience, it's that the costs of hotels and flights on Grand Prix weekend becomes almost exponentially more than it is the weekend before. Unfortunately, the Formula One people don't fix their calendar until this coming September. There's a lot of political negotiations go on, and possibly some financial ones, as they distribute their Grand Prix. So we will know for sure in September. However, our best estimate is that it will be on Saturday the 14th of June, 2014. So my apologies for a degree of uncertainty, one of which I've resolved and one of which we will resolve and announce as soon as we possibly can. Moving on to steadier ground, there is the notice of the forthcoming elections. In February 2014, we will have an election for 5 new members of the Business Committee, and nominations and forms available from either the General Council office or on the website must reach us no later than the 27th of November this year. We certainly hope that we'll have as encouraging a response for candidates as we had this year, which was superb. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Secretary. We now move to what you might call the meat of the meeting, which is the presentation by Professor David Argyle, the head of the Royal Dick Veterinary School of Veterinary Science, on their work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, General Counsel, colleagues, members of the university. Thank you very much for inviting me here to talk to you about the work that we do here at the veterinary school. The observant amongst you will see from the gown that I am wearing, I am a Glasgow graduate. So I'm here on missionary business in the East. And before I start, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we do in terms of students, in terms of research, and in terms of our the front face of the university, which is our clinical work that we do here. Those of you who've been here before will notice massive changes in the campus and the investment that's gone into that. And I think it's worth just saying at the outset, we couldn't have done this without the excellent leadership and support that we've had from the principal and also from the head of college, Sir John Saville. So it's been an incredible amount of support from the university, and we wouldn't have achieved any of this without that. Now, they asked me to speak for 4.5 hours. Is that okay? It is worth, as you look around the campus, what are we about? And we feel that as a school, as an entity within the university, we have an international reputation based on all of our activities. And those activities are all equal. That's teaching undergraduate and postgraduates. our clinical service, and our research. And to be honest with you, all of those are inextricably linked. We can't have one without the other. We want to shape both animal and human health, and I think we achieve that. We want to attract and teach the very best students, and attract and retain, which is incredibly important, the very best staff. And we believe in knowledge through research. It's a research-led organisation. It's worth just reflecting on where we've come from, though. If you, any of you who go on the tours will see the large picture, which is the original vet school. The original vet school was in Clyde Street, and it was in Clyde Street because it was next to the bus station, and it had to be there because that's where the horses collapsed. So that's where the vet school was, in Clyde Street. The founder was William Dick. That's why we called the Royal Dick School of Veterinary Studies. And you can see he ran the school with his charming, fun-loving sister, as you can see. So William Dick, he was a great pioneer, really, and he went off from Edinburgh down to London. The only veterinary school in the UK at the time was the Royal Veterinary College. The course was 6 months. I think it's 8 now in the Royal Veterinary College. But he came back to Edinburgh, and it just shows, actually, even at that stage, the veterinary school was very intertwined with the medical school, which was making significant advances. And the first set of lectures actually took place in the centre of town, and finally was set up as a school in Clyde Street. And that was the original cast, if you like, in the large photograph there of the staff. I have intended this year, we're going to recreate that picture with the current staff, but I haven't got anybody to sit on the horse yet, but we'll do that. As I said, I'm a Glasgow graduate. We have 2 schools in Scotland, the Glasgow Vet School and Edinburgh, and there's some history to that, as you might appreciate. James McCall, who is the man next to the William Dick statue there, James McCall was a student of William Dick's and went to practice in Ayrshire, and they fell out. They fell out over rinderpest. Rinderpest is a terrible disease of cattle that was ravaging northern Europe at that time, and Dick felt that what you should do is diagnose the disease and treat it. And James McCall disagreed. He felt you should diagnose the disease and slaughter the cattle. It's actually the correct way. To distance himself from Dick, he set up the Glasgow Vet School. And that's how we have 2 schools in Scotland. Of course, there's no such rivalry today at all. But, you know, both men, incredible pioneers, and I think it is worth saying that probably the research output of the UK veterinary schools, over 50% comes from the 2 Scottish schools. And I think that says an awful lot about the history. It's also worth mentioning that we've spawned a number of other veterinary schools across the world. So graduates of this school went on to set up the Ontario Veterinary School, Montreal, Cornell, the Liverpool Vet School, Glasgow Vet School, and we've had major influence in setting up schools in other places such as Africa. So the school really is embedded in not only in the university's history, but the history of veterinary medicine. And as I said, you know, we have a long history of strong pioneers. If you look at the wall outside there, you'll see the previous heads and principals of this school. And another was Charnock Bradley. And Charnock Bradley did veterinary medicine. And just to show he could, he went off and read medicine here as well at the university and became the first chair of comparative anatomy and moved the school from Clyde Street to Summer Hall. And as many of you will know, the Summer Hall site was sold to move all of the school out here. The bottom picture there is a reflection of what it was like out here before the university took it over. It was a small cattle farm, and so Easterbush was a small cattle farm. It was bought by the university in 1947 and was adopted by the Dick Vet in the 1960s. And of course, all the large animal surgery moved out of town at the time, and we had small animal surgery in town. It's a very young Tim O'Shea on that cattle wagon, I think there. And it is worth reflecting that this is the estate today. So you can see we actually have a significant amount of land, so our farms around here. We also inherited another farm from when we incorporated Roslin in 2007. So we have 2 farms which we're streamlining into one now, that we use both as a business, but also fundamentally to teach the students as well. So in 2007, the Easterbush vision was ignited, and a decision was taken to co-locate all of the vet student teaching in one location, to close Summer Hall and move everything out here. There was another very strategic decision to merge Roslin Institute within the school and to develop a strategic partnership with the BBSRC, which is a major funding council. And also, in clinical terms, we wanted to expand animal cancer care as well. And I'll just talk you through some of this. So we had a vision for this campus to create a world-leading centre of veterinary research, education and clinical care, and a vibrant campus environment for both the students but also the people working here as well. And what you see around you today and on the tours is a reflection of £100 million worth of investment. And the idea at that time was to have everything running by the end of 2012, which of course we've achieved that. So this is what this is the building site that happened in April 2008. And when you put these slides together, it's sometimes nice to see. You don't really realise when you're working here every day how far we've actually come. But this was the building site. In 2009, we opened the Cancer Centre. I was responsible for that because I was appointed here as the Chair of Clinical Studies and head of Cancer. The big grey box there, it houses a linear accelerator, which is quite a significant piece of kit to treat animals with radiation treatment. You have to house it in a concrete bunker. It's very hard to hide a concrete bunker. So you paint it grey and put the university logo on the side, and it becomes and it becomes a listed building. It's quite. So that's how you retain buildings within the university. And that was opened in 2009. That's been quite incredible. Our clinical income through the cancer service has increased about 70 to 80% since we opened that. So it's been a very important service. The building that you're in was 42 million. We opened that in it's completed in 2010, and there was an official opening in 2011. And you can see, I mean, you were in this atrium. This is quite incredible. We bring people into this building and they just go, wow. You know, it is quite stunning for students to work here. It's a great thing. And the other important thing, and I'm a great fan of history, and having the stained glass windows from Summer Hall reminds us just where we've come from and the history that we have behind us. And I think that was just really incredible. And sometimes I have William Dick looking at me disapprovingly from the statue. The new Roslin Institute building, this was an amazing decision by the university. I can't tell you. We are the envy of every veterinary school in the United Kingdom. I know this because I sit on the Royal College Council. Taking in the Roslin Institute and making that the research arm of the school was a great decision to take. And we've grown from strength to strength, and I'll talk a little bit about that as we move through the talk. And you know, the Roslin Institute building actually has a very, very different feel to this building. It's all about communication and connecting people in research. From above, it's supposed to be shaped like a metaphase chromosome. So if you're ever flying over, just have a look, and you're a genetics expert. That's quite good. The other thing that I hadn't sort of appreciated till I started putting these slides together is how far we've come with the other things that we put in the campus, new campus facilities centre. But this is what the campus looked like back in 2007, the road going through, you know, terrible parking, mud baths everywhere. And, you know, this is it today. We put in cycle paths for the students. And you know, a much nicer environment for people to work in, and it really has become a vibrant place for both teaching and education. So we thank the university for contributing 11 million really to the expansion of these facilities for everyone, to make them safer and more pleasant. So what we think we have at the moment is an infrastructure for excellence in teaching, clinical service and research, with all of the things we've really put together. And I wanted just to explore that in a little bit more detail and just highlight some of the things that we're doing in education, clinical work and research. We are enormously popular for people applying to veterinary medicine here. And you can see we've become even more popular with the kind of facilities and the people that we have here. And we take that incredibly seriously. One of the major emphases that we have had over the last couple of years really is to enhance the student experience. Part of that has been the space, and the space that we have now has really allowed us to build some really strong academic communities. There is a great, it sounds a cliche, but there's a great buzz on the campus. You know, there's a great feel of interaction. The fact that all the staff here, as well as the students, has been quite incredible. So in terms of us, we've been reflecting on what we really want to achieve, and we want to produce the next generation of vets, but those vets really need to be research literate, so they're able to use evidence-based medicine to make clinical judgments. We want to make them clinically competent, and we want also to allow them to be able to communicate to the general public, and that's something we often forget. On the back of that, I have to satisfy a number of things. We're visited by the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons, the European equivalent, and also the American Veterinary Medical Association, because we're accredited by Europe, the UK and the United States. And that's incredibly important because we have an international base of students. And at the end of 2014, we will have a week-long visitation from all of these people to show them how good we are and be under scrutiny. So we have to make sure that what we deliver to the students is nothing short of excellent. We're constantly innovating, so we're trying to enhance the curriculum choice for students. Although it's veterinary medicine, we're trying to allow students to, if they want to do fish, for instance, we have now got a very good relationship with the University of Stirling to allow them to go and do some fish work there, because we don't really cover that here apart from in research. We've opened a clinical skills lab. You can see the horse there. This horse came from America about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was great because I spent Friday afternoon playing with it. I don't like live horses, but ones that are models suit me down to the ground. This horse, we've spent a significant amount of money on these kind of mannequins to allow students. This horse in particular, we can induce to have colic, so we can fill the gastrointestinal tract with gases and liquids. They can rectal it, they can put their hands in, they can do all sorts. It's got interchangeable ovaries. Things I never had when I was a student, but it's quite incredible. We also make sure all of our students have exposure to research. It's no good having the Roslin on the doorstep without utilising that. And we have a great system where students can do research summer projects, and they have a fantastic time. A student in my lab last year has got a publication out of that, and that's what we aim to do. When they see their names on papers, it's quite an incredible thing for them. And we provide national and international placements. And as I said, the kind of things that we're trying to achieve with the students is to keep up with advancements in technology. So we have developing the virtual pharmacy, the virtual abattoir, which would have been great when I was a student because I hated doing abattoir work. Articulate storyline in teaching. This is a new way of delivering information to students through tutorials, and also 3D printing technology we're about to invest heavily in, and this is the way of taking complex images and allowing students to be able to model that in anatomy, which is quite incredible. But as I said, the other part of that, it's great giving them a good education. We also want to make sure they go away here very happy, because our profession is incredibly small. And we want to make sure that our students go out and they promote the school that they were in as well as the university. So we have looked at this very carefully. I was interested to hear that you're keeping a watchful eye on the personal tutor system. This school has done quite a lot in this area. we appointed a significant number of people and reorganised our student support team. As my father used to say, if you surround yourself with good people, you achieve great things. Of course, he used to precede that with, you may be useless, but... but if you do so, and I'm blessed with having great people in our education unit that have spent a huge amount of time and effort with us. We've appointed a student experience officer and a number of student support fellows for our increasing number of students. So in terms of enhancing the student experience, we want to obviously give them excellent teaching and excellent facilities, but also make sure that they can get help when needed through academic and pastoral support. Good feedback, and feedback is, as I'm sure you'll know, is an issue for us that we want to try and rectify. A feeling of well-being and also a feeling of being part of the Dick Vet family, and that's something that I've tried to reinforce to all of the students. They see me as the wicked father that says no to things, but we are a good, strong family out here at the vet school. So in support of our students, we instituted our own personal tutor system, which didn't exactly follow strictly the university system. We held a number of meetings with students, and we allowed them to design their own system, what they wanted, mainly so we could blame them afterwards, but they come up with the system. We created a house system for them, and a student support and advisory group, and an on-campus referral service. So the personal tutor system, each student is allocated a personal tutor. They get academic guidance and pastoral advice to the tutee. So there's a partnership through the degree, a review, feedback and discussion of progress, talk about difficulties. They meet at least once per semester and when required. And the personal tutor is normally the first point of contact for a student with a problem now. And so we created a house system and listening to students and creating communities, because we needed to name the houses. I wanted warships. Student wanted hills, so they got hills. So the Pentland Hills, this is our house system. And so, for instance, Castle Law, there are 80 tutees per house. Then the personal tutors are 6 to 7 per house, and a senior house tutor as well. And so this is not just for academic things. We go bowling and do all sorts of things with that as well. The students have been great with this as well, because the other things that they've done is they've started making logos for each of their houses. There's almost internal competition for this now. I don't know why my wife is in charge of Spittle House. I think the students gave her that because of me. But anyway. So the house system's very clear access to support mechanisms, social integration, and very good impetus for staff-student social events, and it's certainly enhanced the camaraderie and family atmosphere within the school. So this was a number of things that we've done. The Halloween party in October, pre-burn supper in January has become part of the tradition now. And that's been a fantastic success, and the first Dick Vet bowling tournament, which took place in February. The Halloween party was 2012, which was just great. We do work as well, but we have to. That was me feeling blue, and they even had a pumpkin competition, and it was only me who didn't realise that was me. Unfortunately. So we make sure that they have a good time. So study skills advice, stress management, mental health monitoring and professional counselling is all on board here, and we have a very good relationship with the central services as well. The students also have done things themselves. They've started their own Student Welfare Week. We had the inaugural one last year, and it was repeated this year. And they invited speakers and things. They ran it themselves. They did a fantastic job, and we gave them support to do that. Is everybody still awake? Yes, great. I just wanted to talk now a little bit about our research environment, because this goes hand in hand with our educational environment, and it's really education in a research-led environment. This was a quote from Sir John Beddington, the government chief scientific officer at the time, that really highlighted the importance of the agricultural research and the work that was done in Scotland, and we're incredibly well placed to do this. The vision for this campus is a European Centre of Excellence in Animal Science. It's a very, very simple vision, and in large part we've secured that. It's on the basis of two things. One, health. We take full advantage of the fact that we're strategically sited within a medical school, and the other aspect of that is food security, which is really all about the livestock industry and making sure that we can feed the nation and help our international partners. So our major areas of impact for this campus are in the areas of livestock and human genetics. I've put "and human" there because we have a great relationship, as I said, with our medical colleagues. And although often our medical colleagues talk about animal models of human disease, I did point out to the head of college recently that cattle were actually a very good model for some, that humans were actually a very good model for some cattle diseases, and we should use the medical school more often. So we also are interested in animal health, both livestock and companion animal, the biotech, and of course human health is incredibly important to us. So please don't worry about reading this in any great detail, but it's all about enhancing animal health and welfare through knowledge, sustainability of livestock systems, food safety, enhancing human and companion animal health through understanding of basic mechanisms of health and disease, identifying new diseases and tackling that, and also enhancing the quality of life for animals by studying mechanisms and behaviours associated with optimising their environment and life's experiences. And I don't think there's an endemic disease in the UK at the moment that isn't studied on this campus, which is something that not many people can claim. So we divide the research into genetics and genomics, infection and immunity, neurobiology, developmental biology, and clinical sciences. And all of those are interlinked. People go across those divisions. And, you know, here are just a snapshot of some of the things. Everybody thinks about Rosalind and they think about Dolly, but there's a whole raft of other things that the Institute is world renowned in. So in terms of our genetics capabilities at the moment, I think it's pretty much official that we are second only to the Sanger Centre in Cambridge for sequencing technologies and sequencing output of genetics here. And the other thing that we take full advantage of course, is that this campus houses one of the largest computer systems in Europe, and we're allowed to capitalise on that by utilising it for data storage and data handling. We also have very strong partnerships locally here, so I say we're an incredibly strong campus. We're also strong because of our partnerships. We have a close relationship with what was Scottish Agricultural Colleges, is now Scottish Rural Universities something, it's SRUC, the Morden Research Institute, our partners in Glasgow, and some of our partners across Scotland, including Aberdeen and Stirling and the Scottish Government. The other aspect of our work, of course, is clinical service, and we really are the front face of the university here. We have 3 main hospitals: the small animal hospital, the equine hospital, and our cattle practice. We also have first opinion practice. So our clinicians, members of the university, meet the general public every day. And it's not just about it's not just about treating dogs and cats. It is that, in all seriousness, we satisfy the One Health agenda here. Everything we do can directly be reflected in human health. So just to give you an example, in terms of One Health, One Medicine and One Biology, some universities do pay lip service to this. I think we can actually put our hands on our hearts and say we actually do it. And just as an example there, the picture at the bottom there, I'm sorry you've seen this just before lunch, but that's a set of donkey lungs. Donkeys get chronic fibrosis. And it's a very good model for human chronic lung fibrosis. We just received a very large Medical Research Council grant to develop the donkey as a model for human disease. And that's quite incredible. So in the ideal world, everybody's healthy. Children are healthy, dogs and cats are healthy, but actually in reality, for both species, chronic disease and diseases associated with aging humans and animals are incredibly common. So there are a number of important diseases we work on here: cancer, liver disease, osteoarthritis and kidney disease, and these are a major cause of reduced quality of life or death in dogs and cats as they are in humans. And current treatments are aimed at symptom control rather than cure. And so in terms of what we see in the clinic, here we have client confidentiality. We can take clinical observations and marry that to the human equivalent, but of course, there are important advances in technology that allows us to take that a little bit further, because, say, dogs with cancer, for instance, that behaves in exactly the same way as humans with cancer. So, here are the human equivalents and the dog and cat equivalents. Cancer is common. 1 in 3 dogs get cancer, 1 in 3 people will get cancer as well. And the important thing is that we can go far beyond clinical observation now, and the fact that we have the Roslin Institute next door and we have access to all the genome information means that we can go far beyond clinical observation, and we can back all of our understanding of these diseases with hard genetic evidence. So this is my own area, so that's why I'm selling it today. So we've done a number of things where we've tried to explore some of the mechanisms in cancer, and just to give you a little snapshot here, this is currently the linear drug development pathway that you see in human medicine for developing a cancer drug. If you develop a cancer drug, you have to prove it works in a mouse, okay? My mum can cure cancer in a mouse, okay? Very easy to do. It's very good for shareholders. But if you cure cancer in a mouse, jumping then to human clinical trials, a huge number of drugs fail, and they fail quite spectacularly and sometimes at very high costs. So we have this linear drug development pathway going from mouse to human, failure of drugs. So in actual fact, it can take up to 10 to 15 years to get a good drug into the clinics. And with partnering with our medical colleagues, in actual fact, if we look at parallel studies in dogs and cats, dogs often represent a much better model than the mouse. And if you conduct some of those parallel studies in dogs in true clinical cases through the clinics here, then potentially you could reduce a lot of the cost involved in drug development, but also more rapidly move drugs into the human field. And just to give you an example of some of the things that's happening, this is a very large program grant at the moment. This is led by Alan Murray, who's head of engineering, Mark Bradley in chemistry, myself here in veterinary medicine, social science, human cancer medicine, Ian Kunkler. It was a 5.2 million grant that we just got from the Engineering Research Council, and this is actually doing just that. I'll give you a little snapshot of that. This is to try and improve the outcome of radiotherapy in patients. And some of these diseases are very bad, and radiotherapy is used to treat them. And radiotherapy tends to be accurate within about 0.5 millimeters. Some of the problems with radiotherapy and the reason it fails is because tumours are incredibly clever things, and areas of hypoxia, no oxygen in the tumour, means that those tumours don't get irradiated properly. And if we can identify those regions and we can hit them with more radiation, then that would be quite an incredible step forward in human medicine. These hypoxic regions are not static, so you can't just take an image of them and try and find them and hit them with more radiation. So we wanted to see if we could actually increase the success of radiotherapy by targeting these regions using implanted sensors. So the idea is that if you have a tumour within a patient, my colleagues in engineering are developing these microsensors to be able to detect these regions. They need to miniaturize them so we can place them into tumours and essentially place these sensors within patients. And all of the preclinical studies before they go into man will be done through dogs and cats on this campus, because this is a huge challenge. And although that may seem slightly trivial, to try and improve this could have massive implications for survival of patients and also the cost to the National Health Service. So a huge impact of research that could be fundamentally done in dogs and cats. The other areas that we're looking at in terms of diseases in humans are failing organ systems like arthritis, liver disease and cardiac disease, and part of that picture there is showing us that how we're trying to grow mitral valves in tissue culture to try and understand the basis of mitral valve disease in Cavalier King Charles Spaniels, but of course direct relevance to human medicine. So the future, the idea behind our clinics really, although we provide a clinical service for Scotland and the north of England, we believe that we shouldn't be here unless we're advancing knowledge. And for us, it's all about not just translational medicine, but trying to transform clinical practice, both in veterinary medicine and in human health, improved animal welfare and better understanding of disease. Now, just to finish off on a few slides, I just wanted to highlight some of the challenges that we face and some of the things we're trying to do to mitigate that. There is absolutely no doubt that high on our agenda at the moment is concern over rising student debt. Recently at the Dean's meeting in the United States for veterinary school deans, it was reported that in the United States, student debt is only now second to credit card debt as a major national problem for the Americans. And that's a concern to us as well, and we want to make sure that students that come here can survive here. Clinical competition is important as well for us, so we want to make sure that our clinical services are excellent. We're trying to be competitive in postgraduate education and research income. And it's all about maintaining the clinical edge for us, investing in people and investing in technologies. Other things that are changing for us as a profession, 80% of our graduates now go into small animal practice, which is a big change to how it was even 20 years ago. 80% of our graduates are female as well, which changes the profession. There's awful economic pressures on equine and farm animal practice, which is a knock-on from the agricultural sector, and there's a changing face of veterinary medicine internationally. So we have to accept change, maintain excellence in research, teaching and clinical practice, and we think all of these are inextricably linked to the success of the school. So we're heavily investing in the clinics as a platform for translational research, maintaining the cutting edge, providing opportunities for our clinicians to change practice and lead innovation, provide key clinical questions to underpin research as well, provide the next generation of veterinarians and provide educational opportunities to lead postgraduate education nationally and internationally. And I'm sure the principal may have spoken to you at length about the kind of online things we do and the MOOCs and sort of massive online open courses, and certainly we've been heavily involved in that. So we have a number of initiatives on the campus at the moment, which I'm going to skim through. One is to coalesce all of our pathology into a centre for comparative pathology, coalesce the hospitals into research hospitals, but also develop a network with our local practices that serve us and actually badge them as research partners. Clinical trials and imaging facilities important, and enhance our postgraduate education. So just as we leave, I just wanted to show you what the future of Easterbush is, because, as I said to you, we've invested £100 million in this campus. The plan over the next 4 to 5 years is to spend another 80 million. So we have the Roslin Institute, the vet school, and the hospitals. And I'll just show you some of the initiatives that are going on. This is the campus plan now. It's a 20-year plan. But I'm a little bit more eager than that, and I think we'll do this a lot sooner. You can see that you're in the Royal Dick School of Veterinary Studies there. We're looking at pathology extension, innovation hub, a new avian facilities, large animal research and imaging centre, large animal hospital, and a new SPF avian facility. Some of this is underway at the back of the Roslin Institute. If you walk around there, this is nearly completed now. This is our what we call the conventional avian research unit, or the chicken shed. Okay? This is where we keep the chickens. and incredibly important from our research point of view. We also were awarded the money to build this, which is starting in July, just along the road. This is the specified pathogen-free avian facility, or the very expensive chicken shed, which is part of the National Avian Research Facility. Poultry is incredibly important to us here, and it's important to the national economy and internationally. And we have a whole raft of research which is just summarised there in terms of our output in poultry diseases. We've recently achieved complete funding for this now, in part through the principal again, who's match funding from the Scottish Government, who's also match funding from BBSRC to build an innovation centre and campus hub. This will have a ground floor, which is campus facilities, support for students, again, outreach centre, gymnasium, user shop, that kind of thing. But above it, research labs and a hub for incubator companies as well. So the idea is to have more commercial tenants, spin-out companies from the Roslin Institute and ourselves, and co-location of some of our research and development partners. Zoetis was Pfizer Animal Health, which separated from Pfizer. Genus, Cobb and BGI, we have very good relationships with all of these people. The next phase of development is a large animal research and imaging centre, and this is for us to really be a national centre for large animal research and to have the imaging capabilities to really make us unique in the world. And the British Biological Research Council, again, have looked very favourably on this and will be going after some significant government funding for this setup. The other area that we're developing, we have to change our equine facilities. They're currently in the most difficult state of the campus. We need to improve all of those facilities, and as part of that we're creating a centre of health, welfare and rehabilitation for racehorses to try and rejuvenate the whole equine industry. And here are some of the things that will go in there. It'll go from right through clinical work, rehabilitation, education, imaging and research. And that's just an artist's impression of what that might look like. We strongly believe that pathology is the core of our research activities. So again, with our colleagues in human medicine, we've created what we call the Centre for Comparative Pathology, which includes our diagnostic for experimental pathology with strategic alliances. Again, fundamental support for education and research, and closely integrated with our medical colleagues to make sure we take full advantage of our position within the college. And again, maximising our opportunities through imaging, data collection, clinical cases and comparative pathology with a one place in the world that we can really deliver on a one medicine agenda. So these are the stages of development. Some of it is already completed, but as you see, we're incredibly ambitious as a campus, and I think we see ourselves as a jewel in the crown of the university. So I'm going to finish there. I'm very happy to take any questions. The concept behind us is enhancing both human and animal health with both science and compassion, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, David. I think some of us will feel slightly shortchanged on the promised 4.5 hours. Are there any questions? Should we take the front row and then Al?
The facilities are extremely brilliant. Could you say something about the student housing provisions?
In consultation with the students, actually, we took a decision not to house students out here. And part of that, and I strongly support this actually, is that I do believe that the students need an Edinburgh University experience. If we housed all of our students out here, we'd almost become a separate college. And I don't think that's good for their education. So what usually happens is the students in their clinical years, or the more mature students, probably get sort of local housing rent on the farms or around here. But certainly in the early years, I think it's incredibly important that they're seen as Edinburgh University students and not just Dick Vet students.
Could you just give your name and your degree as well?
Right, yes. Alan Brown, past convener of the Business Committee, doctor. Thank you very much for that magnificent overview of what's happened here. It is, as you say, the jewel in the crown. Can I raise a slightly mundane question?
Yeah.
The signposting to this area is not good. We came out by taxi from Edinburgh on the Pennycook Road, and at the big roundabout there is a sign to Easterbush, and there is not another sign until we get here. And we passed the Technopole, we passed Morden, and you wonder whether you should be going in there. Can anything be done?
Well, it's interesting you say that. I recently wrote to the head of college and said, Dear Sir John Saville, I used to be a reasonably good veterinary surgeon. Now I deal with the buses. And it is a major issue. There is estates and buildings know about some of these issues, and we are trying to do something about the signage. The other thing in terms of out with the campus and the signage that goes with that, we're working very closely with Midlothian Council. And actually I have to say we're having some very good support from the council, because the other thing that will happen as part of this estate development, because they see this actually as the jewel in the crown of Midlothian. That they said it's the best kept secret in Midlothian for them. And there is discussions about how the road layouts will actually change. We petitioned quite strongly actually that we wanted that road closed off and be private road, but they wouldn't listen to that. But it is a major issue. The other major issue I've had, which is linked with your question, is how do I get the students out here? And that has been, as the rector will probably know as well, that's colloquially known as Busgate, and nearly finished my career trying to sort out how we would deal with the buses. And just to say, the school pays Lothian buses £200,000 a year or something like that, just so we can have the service, and we're trying to reduce that down as the service is taken up. I think, and hopefully the rector will agree with me, we've probably sorted that with the students, and I think we came to a very, very good amicable arrangement, and have strongly supported the students financially as well, because some of them are finding it difficult to get out here, but hopefully we've sorted that issue. I take your point, and I will pass it on to Midlothian, but I think it's something that they've already heard.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm Anne Patterson, and I studied BSc Social Sciences. Thank you for a wonderful talk. And you could probably spend the next 3 hours talking about this, but could you say briefly connections with developing countries and African institutions and what you're doing for world?
Yes, absolutely.
Veterinaries?
On many levels, actually. So from a simple level, our students will, have placements to work in African countries. In research, there's a lot going on. You may recall that we used to have the Centre for Tropical Veterinary Medicine out here, which was in the buildings right at the back. Myself and David Hume, who is the director of the Roslin Institute, have made a strategic decision to reinvent the Centre for Tropical Veterinary Medicine, because it had a brand worldwide, and coalesce a lot of the research that's going on here into one unit. And we're hoping to launch that in early 2014. A number of things that are going on, major thing in infectious diseases, molecular epidemiology, particularly in areas like Tanzania. We also are involved at the moment in trying to support Malawi in setting up a veterinary school in Malawi from an educational point of view. We have connections both in the livestock industry, but also with our colleagues in Stirling and fish. I think you name it and we're probably involved in it. We have a very good relationship with GalvMed, which are a development agency that translates research into practice in the African countries. And the other area would be in research funding with the Gates Foundation. We have support from them in terms of some of the research projects. So there's a lot going on. The other thing that we're part of here, which cuts across the colleges in the university, are the global academies. So out of the College of Medicine and Veterinary Medicine comes the Global Health Academy. And under that umbrella, there's a lot that goes on in terms of both research and education. And we launched this year an online distance learning course in the One Health again mainly targeted towards the developing world, because we want people in third world countries to be able to have the Edinburgh experience, but they can't afford to so they have the online experience, but we want that to be excellent as well. So that was a very brief overview, but if you email, I can give you a lot more detail, but there's a lot going on, as there is in the whole university.
Thank you. There's an email being received from Emma. She was Scott, now Rodriguez dos Santos, split into 3 parts, a couple of which I think you've already answered. But she was querying what's happened to the Summer Hall building. What are the joint programmes between Roslin and Easter Bush? But perhaps most importantly, is the poor water buffalo still trudging around in a circle to demonstrate draft power at Easter Bush? Emma was a graduate of the Dick Vet School in 1999.
No, nothing about the buffalo. Okay, and that's my official line on the buffalo. Summer Hall is now a venue. It was sold. We did think it would probably become converted into flat things, but it's become quite a trendy venue. So you can visit there and see it. The students still have some functions in there, in actual fact, so it's nice to still see it's still there. What joint programs do we have with Roslin? None, because we really like to think we're one and the same, to be honest with you. So we're totally integrated, I think. There are some times when we have to be separate as a front face. Sometimes it's very important when we're going to funding agencies. So for instance, it's probably best I don't say this on camera, but for some instances, we are separate, but that's for a strategic decision. But we like to think that all of our programs are totally integrated.
Any further questions? Alan and then Charles.
Thank you. Alan Johnson, former convener of the Business Committee, degrees in biochemistry and business. Thank you for tremendous exposition of the fantastic facilities you have here. And of course you have very good people, and it's the people who make it. I'm sure you can attract very good people with the facilities you have, but your best people must be in a world market, looking at Australia, looking at North America and so on. Do you find a brain drain as the competition?
Well, it's a very good question. It's high on the agenda. One of the biggest, we've been very disappointed that a new school is opening in Surrey, a new veterinary school in Surrey. We feel that the market is flooded. The heads of vet schools are very concerned about that. So as a profession, we were very disappointed that the Royal College didn't stand up and be a little bit more forceful in that area. There was a great deal of concern that, of course, a new school opening, the honeymoon period and large amounts of money going into these enterprises can attract staff away. Thankfully, and touch wood, that we haven't had that issue. The one thing that I think here that we're blessed with is that we're a very, very strong university. Despite the size of it, I think you still feel part of the university. I think members of staff feel very proud to be part of Edinburgh University. We're very lucky in where we are. People like working here. We're incredibly supportive, I think, to the staff here, and we have tried to create a strong feeling of camaraderie. Certainly the way I restructured things over the last couple of years, we've tried to do that. We're the first veterinary school to achieve Athena Swan status, and so and there are a number of other things that we're implementing on the back of that. So we can do our best. Largely speaking, you're absolutely right, we are in a world market. There are sometimes we can't compete on salaries, and that's an issue worldwide. And that includes right up to the level of the dean. I don't think I'm paid enough. David Hume, the director of the Rotten, said, "You need to threaten to resign more." And I said, I think they may accept if I... and then I have a mortgage to pay. So we do our very best. And there are people where... those people who... I suppose if people are going to go, they're going to go, and they were always going to go. So there are some that decide to leave, and they always leave with good grace here, and it's very, very amicable. But largely speaking, we try and be as supportive to the staff as possible. We try and give them the clinical facilities that they like to work in, and we try not to overload them. So I think we had 100% return rate on our appraisals this year. So we've really looked at personal and professional development. And so I think we probably could do better, but we're doing the best that we can to keep people. Interestingly, my last 3 appointments have been from the United States. So our new equine surgeon from North Carolina, my new internal medicine person from North Carolina, and my new radiation oncologist from Georgia. In fact, the Dean of North Carolina phoned me and asked me to come and give a talk, and I said, "I'm not even on a recruitment drive, Paul. Why would I come and visit you?" So we've actually done quite well in attracting people, which gives me great confidence that we can probably keep them as well.
Okay, can we take then Charles, then chap back there.
Hello, Peter Austin, 1974 Dick graduate. David, can you perhaps help the general public and perhaps the university students and professionals to understand the difficulties that TB vaccination present in various animals and cattle?
I would love to, but it would be a very difficult thing for me to comment on today. But we can talk afterwards. But that's a very difficult question for me to talk about in an open forum. but thank you for raising it. I really appreciate that sort of.
Charles?
I was going to ask a related questions. I'm not. Well, I'll try anyway.
Nobody mentioned TB in the script.
Yes, okay, that's true. But where do you think, from a kind of research perspective and the animal care perspective, it's a major health problem most of us read about in newspapers. So where do you think what's the direction that the answer will come from?
Okay, so here is the sort of my honest opinion at the moment, and it reflects the profession, if you like. If you look outside, you'll see the pioneers of the profession on the wall outside, and I think the profession as it stands had a heyday in the last century and had a great influence on disease control and disease management. And if I'm honest, I think the profession has lost its way. If you looked at the Ministry of Agriculture as it was, Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Foods, when I was an undergraduate, there were lots of vets that were involved in policy-making decisions and expertise. And if you look at DEFRA today, actually, there's far fewer of our profession there. And I do feel we've lost our voice, if you like. And I would call to the profession, in actual fact, that it's time for a renaissance and a time for the profession to come back. And this is what I would be telling our students just before their graduation, that I'll be looking to them actually to help drive things, because I do believe as a profession we've lost our voice, and I think it needs to come back again. And we need to have a stronger voice in some of these key decisions that tend to be made perhaps by... we're on camera, huh? Soapbox over with.
Anne Smythe, General Counsel Assessor and Psychology graduate from here. Because of sitting on court, I'm interested in the political context for higher education at the moment. And you mentioned that 80% of the student body are now women, but you didn't say very much about the other characteristics of the students whom you now recruit. And I wanted to invite you to comment on the balance now between those from Scotland, from the rest of the UK, and international students, and whether you have any concerns about the future dynamics in a changing world.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and one that's very high on my agenda, because if I'm honest, the funding councils, both HEFSI and SHEFSI, keep changing the goalposts, and the goalposts midstream. So we up until recently we were capped. So the number of undergraduates that we can take in directly from school from the United Kingdom and Northern Europe is at 72. Obviously, with a change in structure, then we have a specific number of Scottish students and a number of English students. That is a challenge, because we have to try and make sure that we're spot on with our numbers when we, and of course, kids have to have very high grades to get in here. So you know we're putting a lot of faith in we do interviews and various things. There are a number of problems that we were told last year, again midstream, that the cap had been removed, but essentially we're still capped, because financially we still can't take more than 72 the way the SHEFSI grant works. So you know essentially we're not capped, but we are. I have been greatly concerned by the drop in Scottish applicants. And that's something that we need to work on as a school. We've had some discussions about that. It also fits in with the widening participation agenda. That's another issue that's a concern to us as well, because in terms of how they've divided that up with postcodes, most of those postcodes are in the west, and traditionally those students will go to Glasgow. And actually Edinburgh has that kind of sort of elitist sort of thing that actually you know, trying to get kids to come over to Edinburgh is more of a challenge than it is in Glasgow. And we'd like to allow them to extend those postcodes actually to rural areas, which is more important to us. So number of concerns are drop in number of Scottish students, and we've been talking recently how we get the message out to a lot of the schools and how we're going to do that. But of course this balancing act that we place in, of course, what always hits the press then in you know, when the results come out and things is, you know, oh, Edinburgh took English students because they're paying, you know, and actually we have to be, you know, we have to use the mantra that we're very fixed on what we have to do, and it's governed by we're not set by ourselves, as it were. Now obviously everything above 72 places are we charge for, and that's very important to us, because it pays for a lot of the things that you see around you. You know, it's an important part of our business plan, and I'm not ashamed of that. I think but that's part of the idea of making sure the students get value for money and what they're paying. Veterinary medicine is a hugely expensive course, and the clinics don't make any money at all. Just so that I get hammered constantly by the college about our income through the clinics, because they think vets are licensed to make money, but we have to teach 180 students a year, and when you're doing that, you don't cost in the true cost of teaching. So that's an important consideration. So we need our students, our fee-paying students. There are a number of challenges with that. So largely speaking, the number of extra students have come from North America. The North America schools have expanded their in-state programs, so they've taken in more students. Some of them have reduced their fees, and 3 new schools have opened up in North America. Denmark are gaining AVMA accreditation. Dublin has gained AVMA accreditation. So we have to make sure that what I'm aiming for here at this school is this is actually should be your first choice. Not when you can't get into some of the other schools. This is the place to be. And that's the vision for the campus, is that why would you go anywhere else to do veterinary medicine if you could get in here? And that's my vision for attracting students in. So to go back to your original question, 72 home places, everything else above that fee paying, to 180 students per year. And I would say about 60% of those, that fee paying entry are overseas and about 40% home. However, just to make my life even more difficult this year and to nearly send me into apoplexy, is that HEFC wrote to the English veterinary schools and told them that they could top up fees for graduates. And so currently the English veterinary schools are offering UK graduates, I must say, not Northmen, a course at 9,000 when ours is 27. And I can't do anything about that. So again, another game changer midstream.
Reverend Dr. Alison Fuller, Edinburgh BSc Botany in the mid-60s. I'm interested in all that you would say of the tutor system of support for the students these days. I wonder how what we provide here compares with other universities. What you said before us was very full and comprehensive, and it's made me wonder if there has not been much tutorial support between my time at university, when we did have a tutor, in my case in medicine faculty. Has there been very little such support going on from there?
In between time? No, in actual fact, although we've moved to the personal tutor system, previous to that we had the Director of Studies system here, which actually, and in fairness to all my colleagues, worked incredibly well. It was a system of its time when we had 50 or 60 students. Now we have 180 students per year, and that changes the dynamic considerably. Specific concerns about certainly mental health issues are incredibly important, and actually there were a number of staff that were actually becoming very overloaded with problems actually, and the other concern for us is to make sure we had a streamlined referral system where the students who really needed help, we knew who to go to and where to get them to. So I don't think the system that we had before was terribly broken. I think we had a very good system, but I think we had to adapt to change and improve things again, we did listen to the students, and we did act on some of their recommendations. On all of their recommendations on what they wanted. But we had to adapt to a new environment. The other thing that we had to adapt to was culturally very different, because a lot of our students from North America, and USA and the UK are two countries separated by a common language. And culturally it can be very, very different, and we had to adapt significantly to some of that. And we're trying to move that into some of our postgraduates as well. So although I don't think the Director of Studies system was a major problem, we just had to adapt to a new system just to make it a lot better. And that was part of the university's self-reflection, I think, really.
Okay, just before I move to the next question, if you've got wider questions about the university, we can try and take those as well. Matt?
Yeah, thanks very much. Hi, Matthew McPherson. I recently... Hello, how are you? So I was Sociology 2011 and student president last year. Thank you very much, David, for that. I'm very sorry about the very active part I played in Busgate, but I'm very excited to have... I never thought I'd start a hashtag on Twitter.
You were the good one, I think, in Busgate.
Was I?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I actually did consider... I considered building and driving the bus myself at one point, but I
have to say,
well,
so did I.
Perhaps we've already worked out our retirement venture together, but thank you very much for that. I very much welcome and really genuinely and warmly encouraged by all of the work that's taking place across the school. And I also very much welcome the holistic approach the vet school's taken to the part it plays within the wider university community and doesn't view itself as a separate thing. Now, one of those is to do with finance. You mentioned fees, and you very much mentioned student debt as being a kind of international problem that's really touching every student in Western universities, actually, and around the world. But you also mentioned there's a slight slump that you're obviously aware of in regards to Scottish applicants from students in Scotland. Now, of course, Scottish students don't pay fees, but their education is far from free because of the fact that often their grant and other scholarships that are available in their loans aren't enough to cover the costs of them actually being here. I was wondering what structural changes you're able to make. Transport is one of those. The fact that students studying veterinary medicine don't have time to have a part-time job, for example, unlike other degrees, is of concern. And so I was wondering what other structural changes you might be able to make to ensure that the Scottish students we do get are the best students and not just the kind of middle class and above students who can afford to come here with support from their parents.
Yeah, it's a really difficult question, Matt, because obviously we're constrained by our own internal finances. We try to do a lot, although you're absolutely right that because of the nature of the course, sometimes they can't get jobs. We try and make, a lot of students say that do lambing and things, try and get placements where they are paid to do that. Certainly for the summer students that we have here through research, we try and pay all of them, and make sure, because it's usually paid off grants and things, that they can come in to do that. And certainly the students in my lab, we'll give them a stipend per week to make sure that we try and cover their living expenses during. The other thing that we've tried to do is, one of the concerns for us was fee-paying students then that for some reason, not through their own making, may have to fail that year. There might be a tragedy at home or something has happened, and of course then they may have to resit the year, and we've worked out a mechanism, I think, with help with the university, of how to offset those fees that they might have to partake with, and I think we have a resolution on how we're going to do that for them. We have we try and support them through giving them through their induction weeks and through the course they have some aspects of financial management and support. Above and beyond that, it's very difficult to do anything more for them. But we have tried and offset a few things within the school, sort of simple things, costs of this. And what we did with the bus was create a system for students that couldn't afford to do all that transport. We've actually borne the brunt of that within the school and costed that in. Above and beyond that, it's quite difficult to do, although we do have some hardship funds for people and try and support them. But I have to say, it's a challenge for us all. The principal has done a very good job, and the team with creating, I think, what is, one of the best bursary schemes in the United Kingdom to try and support students. But you're absolutely right. We try and do what we can. Sometimes it's on an individual basis, though.
David Houston. I have a PhD in applied mathematics and also an MBA from this university. Thank you very much for a fantastic presentation, and particularly encourage you to continue with the humorous vein that ran through it.
You have to have a sense of humour within the university, to be honest with you.
Yes. I'm also very impressed with the technology investment that there's been, obviously in this facility, as well as just the wonderful buildings and everything. Have you been looking at the potential for embedded chips in animals, both small and large? Do you think that's an interesting area of research?
Absolutely. So technology at all levels, to be honest with you. And the one thing about working in Edinburgh is that you're absolutely right. Out here, with the vet school, but most of our research collaborations are not just on this campus. And the program that I talked to you about, which was the sort of implantable chips into dogs and cats as a pre-trial to man, actually stemmed from a conversation we had with the end of 5 years ago. It's taken us 5 years to get that point, to get 5.2 million. A group of us got together to think, how could we really change clinical practice in that particular area? But of course, embedding chips into dogs and cats is not new, because as I used to live in the United States, and my 2 dogs came in fully chipped. So I could, I knew that they were there. So, although I paid $25 each for my 2 dogs in America. You know, it cost me £5,000 to bring them into the United Kingdom, and they had to be chipped. To do that. So I think to keep abreast of everything, we have to embrace that technology and use it to our best advantage.
Do we have any further questions? We've got one there.
It isn't strictly a veterinary question.
Sorry, can we?
Thank you so much. It isn't a veterinary question. May I ask it anyway?
Yes, please.
Bron Spence-Thomas, I did a BSc here. A couple of years ago, the university took the decision to promote and protect Gaelic, which was a wonderful decision to make. And I wondered if there was a possibility that it might make a similar decision to protect other minority languages in Scotland.
Obviously, that's not a question for me, I'm looking to the university secretary, but it may not be. The one thing I would say is if we can't answer any questions today, I think we would take your contact details and we will email you with...
May I say specifically that I'm concerned that the Caithness dialect is not very well protected and that it seems to suffer somewhat. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll get an answer.
Yes. Take a question by email.
I have one other question by email from William Keddy Law, who was an MA in 1968, currently in Montrose. Does the principal share my concern that in the Guardian University League Table for 2014, Edinburgh appears in 19th position, 15 places behind St Andrews and 1 behind Heriot-Watt?
Thank you for that. And before I answer that, just to say thank you very much for your welcome to the council on my first meeting. This is, I think, 3 months into the role, so it's a great learning experience for me to be here. The principal has given an answer to this question, which I'll read out, which is the Guardian League Table is one of several league tables that the university monitors and which we take an interest in. All league tables consider different measures, and the Guardian approach does not include any measures reflecting our excellence in research, which is a key performance measure for a research-intensive university like ours. The table does demonstrate some of the strengths of our very comprehensive offering in that we're ranked in 37 of the 46 subject tables. We retain top place in the Nursing League table and in the top 10 in 11 tables. But the university is aware that in many subjects our National Student Survey satisfaction scores need to be better, and this is reflected in the Guardian table, as the NSS drives 25% of these rankings. We're fully committed to improving the student experience, recently agreeing an investment of up to $4 million to make a real difference in this area. Students will have access to a framework of guidance and support that builds on best practice, meets contemporary needs, and is of a quality and consistency appropriate to our high global standing. Improvements are being phased in and delivered over the next 3 years. The new personal tutor system has already generated lots of positive feedback from students regarding their access to advice and support. And if I could just add, this whole area is of particular concern, obviously, to the university. Within my own group, we have been reorganising, restructuring and investing greater resource in this area to better align our efforts in support of the Vice Principal leading in this area. So it's something that we take very seriously.
Okay, thank you. We've got time for another couple of questions if anyone wants to ask them, or we can move on with the rest of the day's business. No, sorry.
Thank you very much.
I think Alan has a final question there.
I'm sorry, because Anne Smythe again. I nearly got deflected by your answer to the question before my previous question. You said something about really hoping that the profession in future would make its voice heard in the policy agenda. And I suppose I wondered whether you saw any scope, therefore, for addressing some of that awareness in the curriculum, given developments elsewhere in the university to better ally our understanding of government and policy and the way in which our academics contribute thereto. Does that reach out to the vet school, and do you see a role in the education that you offer, bearing in mind from all that you've told us that it must be already very difficult to be exactly. This is the counsel of perfection always, because there are the business elements and so on. But I'm just interested in your reflection about how this Centre of Excellence could actually support those developments.
Well, that's a very good question. You're right, the curriculum is incredibly full. In fact, my wife, who is course leader for third year, told me she was going to reduce some of my lectures, which I thought was very brave. But in all seriousness, we do have a vet school council, which our students are actually very active. We introduced something, so we do have talks coming from Royal College, from government, and to talk to people. One about careers, but I think that needs to be expanded, and the other thing would be about policy decisions and how things are made. So there is a little bit in the curriculum, probably not enough. But I'm very warmed by the fact that our students do take something, because I opened the Veterinary Record this morning, which is the trade journal, and there is a letter from our Veterinary School Council slating the Royal College for allowing a new vet school in Surrey, and they have obviously taken it upon themselves. A very eloquent letter, very well written, obviously taken. It was very measured and raised serious concerns about the future of the profession. And to my mind, that means we must be getting, we're training people not just to be insular clinicians, but actually to embrace their profession and to try and make a difference. And I know the staff try and do that. So I suppose the short answer is that we probably don't do too much in the official form, but I think the way we approach everything, we'd like to think the students grow up and have a voice and can speak for their profession.
Okay, thank you. David, do you want to make some concluding remarks?
No, I just to thank you very much for listening to me this morning. It should be against the Geneva Convention that you're dragged here on a Saturday morning to listen to me drone on about the veterinary school, but I'm very pleased to be here. I'd just like to thank you for all your support as well, because I know many of you are involved in support of the university, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day here at the vet school. We've arranged a couple of tours for you. The good group will get me. People who haven't asked questions get me. The naughty people who've asked difficult questions, especially about TV, by the way, you get Professor Corcoran. And so, but enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. I think everyone will. So, thank you again very much. I'd like to move to agenda item 7, which is any other competent business. I've had none notified to me. Does anyone have any other items for consideration? No? Last chance? No? Good. And if I can then invite the convener to submit a motion for adjournment.
So, General Counsel, for the purpose of considering matters which may be transmitted to the General Counsel by the University Court or any other business of a competent nature, the Business Council be empowered to act on behalf of the Business Committee be empowered to act on behalf of the Council, and that this meeting be adjourned to a date to be fixed by the Business Committee.
Are we happy to approve that? Yes. Can I then call the chaplain to close the meeting?
We ask God's blessing upon us, that we may go out from here inspired and with fresh courage and vision to use our gifts wisely to build a just and compassionate world. Amen.
This production is brought to you by the University of Edinburgh.